Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to my power scaling series in which I'm going to be going through the entire Cell Saga of Dragon Ball Z from start to finish. If you guys are interested, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and enable all notifications, as well as hitting like and hyping this video up so that you'll be able to see every single one of these videos in this series right away when they come out. And in case that you missed some of the series along the way, make sure to check the end screen of this video when it's over so that you'll be able to, in turn, go to that playlist and see everything else leading up to this. Now, before we begin, I also wanted to tell you about my book series, The Children of Aman, beginning with the first book, Nemesis of the Absence, a story of thieves who band together in the name of vengeance, using the fundamental forces of creation wielded by the main character, Seraph, a speaker. And you get to see a lot of things such as action, adventure, fight scenes, romance, cool powers, and that much more along the way. So if you're interested, make sure to go down below in the description and get your own copy, physical or digital, today. But with that being said, let's get directly into scaling the Cell Saga. Now, Trunks shows up, and I think it's worth mentioning in terms of his power level as well, that Trunks is actually, 3 years have passed in our timeline. However, the main timeline that we follow, but in Trunks' timeline, which is the fourth timeline, and that's a video I talked about in the past, how time travel works. You could argue that 3 years passed for him, or he just kind of, went there for like a few months or however long it took to, get the time machine all loaded up. And then in turn, what happened? He went back to the past. So some people also think that Trunks actually went this is a different Trunks. And so essentially he went to his future. He killed his android somehow. Cell killed him. And then there was another Trunks went back in time or whatever. Again, I talked about that separately. But personally, I never thought that Trunks was much stronger than when he first left. I think he's probably the same power level, and thus he's the weakest of all the Super Saiyans. I would still say that he's stronger than Piccolo. But I would say that, he is weaker than Goku and Vegeta by a good amount by this point. So let's say he's still 170 million power level, if you want to say that. He's the weakest now, even though he was way stronger than his daddy back then. At this point in time, Dr. Gero goes and he wakes up 17 and 18. And then, obviously, they also start to talk about 16, who is, asleep in his pod. So obviously we see later on that 16 is stronger than 17 and 18. Now, in terms of their powers, I think it's actually the best for me to just show you what happens next so that you can get a straight hands-on demonstration. First off, 17, in terms of hands-on, uses a palm strike right through Dr. Gero and easily kills him. So 17 is way more powerful than Gero, even after absorbing Piccolo's energy. But then we get into the fight that occurs after this. Not only do they take 0 damage from Trunks' blast, but we also have the fight after when Vegeta goes to fight against 18. So at this point, when they first start out, neither one of them is going full power. We see that they're just sparring a little bit. 18 is, actually getting thrown back by Vegeta, but she's not taking any damage, and Vegeta is able to hit a little attack. But this is also when we find out that neither one of them are really going full power, or at least that Vegeta explains this to 18. He says that if he was to fight her seriously, he didn't think that the planet would be able to handle the fight itself, which makes sense. I mean, we saw in Namek that weaker fighters with Frieza and Goku were destroying the entire planet with the attacks on display, and they weren't even trying to after Frieza blasted it initially, even before that. But he then tells 18 that she's also not going full power, and that he tells her to not hold back anymore. So 18 agrees, and she goes full power. This is something that so many fans completely miss when they read the manga or watch the anime. They think that 18 is just toying with Vegeta the entire time. That's wrong. She literally says then I will go full power. And then she does. Immediately, she speeds up and she hits Vegeta. And even though he is draped in his aura, which is his defensive force field, remember, keep that in mind, she hits him and immediately draws blood from his head. He did not expect for her to be able to be that much stronger than she just was and be able to actually burst through his defenses and hurt him. At this point, Vegeta punches her and it doesn't do anything. She then hits him and she hits him into the wall and she has the advantage. But just because she has the advantage does not mean she's actually significantly stronger than Vegeta. Now, watch what happens next. Even though the two of them are going full power at this point in time, and 18 still has the advantage, Vegeta keeps the fight coming to her. He jumps off the wall after she hits him, he headbutts her, and knocks her down with a double axe handle into these rocks, and then he blasts her. Okay, at that point in time, what do we see? Android 18 has sustained damage as well, superficial, but enough to surpass her own defenses. We see that she has scuffs on her face, her clothes are ruined at this point in time. That does not happen if you are weaker than somebody's passive or even active defenses. She is at full power. If she was so much stronger than Vegeta, like so many people in the fandom think, well, then he wouldn't have knocked her back. He wouldn't have been able to do anything. He would just gotten wrecked like everybody who fought against Broly, right? So again, that's not what's happening. Vegeta bypassed her defenses and hit her multiple times in a way that actually knocked her back. Again, she's still not taking that much damage. She's still stronger than he is. But it's worth noting that, again, none of them are enough for her. Because at the same time, what happens? Well, Vegeta is pushing her back. He's keeping up with her, but she doesn't actually need to win through a power advantage. All she has to do is wear him down. Look at Trunks. Trunks points out, amazing, I had no idea my father was this incredible. He's actually holding his own against an artificial human. Of course, Jinzo Ningen, which could be translated as artificial human, cyborg, android, whatever. Obviously, 18 and 17, Lapis and Lazuli, are not actually robots. They are human beings who have been augmented, depending upon your version of the story at a cellular level, whatever have you. But Piccolo makes mention that the android is gradually wearing him down. The enemy's power is seemingly infinite because she has infinite stamina, but Vegeta's takes a hit with every move he makes, which is true. The only reason why 18 starts to again get not only the better of him to a higher degree, but then does the infamous arm breaking right here is because of the fact that she wore Vegeta down enough to do this. Vegeta, well, he was already a lot stronger than, he was before, than Goku on Namek and so on and so forth. And he was able to keep going against 18 despite being at a power disadvantage. But every time he did an attack, so I mentioned this before with Piccolo, every single time Vegeta punches, he's not only going to use his 250 million power level or whatever you want to say there, he's also going to be using probably higher than that in a short burst. He watched Goku use the Kaioken. He probably figured out how to do it just like when he sensed Ki for the first time and everything like that. Because if Goku can do something, so can I. And so he's putting out 300 million or 350, whatever have you, to combat Android's 18's power level. And yet, even then, it is not enough because despite the fact that he's able to push her back with her own power level, whatever you'd like to say it is, maybe she's 350 million herself. Let's say maybe a little bit higher than that or a little bit lower based upon your own power scale. I'd say that she's at least twice as strong as Goku on Namek. I'd say even stronger than that. I would say that she's probably somewhere around 2 to 3 times stronger than the initial Super Saiyans that were appearing, 2 to 3 times stronger than maybe Trunks. But even then, I wouldn't say so because of what we see later on. So I'd say that's somewhere around 300-ish million for 18. And we know that 17 is a little bit stronger than 18. So that would suggest that in that case, that Android 17 is probably closer to somewhere around, like, let's say 400 than to 350 million. It's interesting. They actually labeled my manga wrong because multiple say part 6, even though I'm literally on part 3. That's a great job, fan translators. Hey, you guys did an amazing job with this. I'm not going to complain. So we see that, like, 17 and 18 are able to just start annihilating everybody, wrecking them. To be fair, he did attack Trunks from behind, and he's stronger than Trunks, and Trunks was entirely, like, distracted because he was fighting against 18. Now, one reason why a lot of people do suggest that 18 is stronger than the 18 from the future is because the fact that, as you could see right here, Trunks goes in and he slices at 18's arm and the sword breaks. Now, obviously, Trunks still had his sword intact, so this never happened in the future. So you just argue that they never allowed that to happen. They just had a different personality and so on. But either way, fact of the matter is that Android, you could argue here that that makes them stronger, like Trunks goes on to say. But 17 hits Trunks one time from behind, double axe handle, just like Vegeta did, and takes him down. Doesn't knock him out yet, though. Same thing with Vegeta, who's on the ground. He does essentially one-shot Piccolo. Again, makes sense because he's way stronger than Piccolo and Gero, and he starts to take other characters out. Now, maybe if Tien had just used the Tri-Beam right here, the Neo Tri-Beam, he would have been able to kill 17. But yeah, anyway, I have a whole video about that. I mean, to be fair, there are these other characters in the way. Also, it's me. I don't like to make these asides. I do really like how Vegeta flies in to try and help Tien here. He's calling him a fool and stuff, but like Vegeta before would just let 17 snap his neck and not giving a damn. But instead, he's like, "You fool," and he jumps up to try and stop 17. So I do really like that. Of course, at this point, 18 is fighting against a weakened, tired Vegeta whose one arm is gone now, because that arm always breaks. And she slams him right into Trunks, who again is not anticipating this to happen. He's not bracing. Boom, takes him down. They take everybody down. So they're all way more powerful than they are. Again, Stretch Armstrong moment with with 17 punching Piccolo. Puts him down to the ground. And, well, guess what? Not just that. They're way stronger, and 18 breaks his other arm, at which point Vegeta finally just is KO'd. Trunks also is too when he was thrown into his father, the other way around. His father threw him into Bulma. That's how this happened in the first place. This whole mess started because of that, right? Their whole relationship destroyed the entire timeline. But no, it destroyed all the Yamcha fans' hearts. But either way, you could see that they're all a lot stronger than the other characters, and 16 is that much stronger than them. Now, let's go on to the point to where we're told a little bit more estimates about this. We see that, for instance, we get some estimates here about the power of the characters. Trunks points out that the androids in his future weren't actually as strong as these ones. Again, you could take that literally, or you could just say that they were just playing with him a lot more in the future and he didn't know just how strong they actually were. But also listen to what Tien says here. Again, ordering. This happens after a lot of the other statements are made. We're talking about the man who was able to kill Frieza without breaking a sweat, and even he wasn't a match for the androids. We need to face facts. No matter how strong Goku might be, he won't fare much better than Trunks or Vegeta did. I don't think that we stand much of a chance against these things with Goku fighting alongside us. So, again, major thing to point out. A lot of people over the years have asked, well, and actually here's the point where Trunks talks about how he could give the others a decent fight and so on, but either way, the point is that these androids might be stronger because of time variations, and not just that, but additionally, that these androids are so strong that even if Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks all fought together with all the other Z fighters, that if the two of them teamed up like they did against Gohan in the rain, for instance, that they would not be able to defeat them. Of course, in Dragon Ball Z, as we saw, again, referencing the Broly movie, even though it was made by Koyama and not Toriyama and was with Toei, and you know all the differences. The fact of the matter is that when a character is themselves having as much power as like everybody else around them in one body, they're way more effective than a bunch of people spread out everywhere, because then somebody who's way stronger individually can run over and one shot all the individual components and make it to where ganging up and jumping somebody essentially does not work. And that's why I did that video about what if the Z Fighters jump Cell, because so many people are like, oh, they should have just jumped him, they would have beaten him. It's like, no, they wouldn't have, because he would have just one shot all of them and then it would be over. So again, same thing here. They would need individually to be strong enough to win. Otherwise, it wouldn't have made a difference. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for the next episode of this power scaling series of the Cell Saga. Also, get your own copy today of my first book, Nemesis of the Absence, the first in the Children of Mon series, because of course, as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future. Trunks. Future Trunks.
And you better subscribe!